Hello, it's Dr. Andrew Allen from Midwestern State University talking to you today about Riff Rovisation, the improvisation etude for this year's ATSSB Jazz Ensemble All-State Auditions. Now, for some of you, you may be very experienced improvisers where you're looking at this blues thinking, oh, that's just fine. But for a lot of you, I would venture to say this is one of your first experiences improvising. And I would say to you, improvisation is a lot of fun, it's not scary. So here are a few things that you can think about as you're preparing this particular etude that you can transfer into a lot of other things that'll make you a better improviser as you go along. So first things first, this is a B-flat blues. For the alto and bari players, you guys are going to be playing a G blues. For the tenor players, you guys are going to be playing a C blues. And many of you, if you don't already, probably pretty quickly you're going to learn your G or C blues scales. And that's fantastic. That provides you a jumping off point for improvisation. If you know that blues scale, you can play it over the changes, everything's going to sound good, it's going to be fine. So use that to get comfortable. Don't use that as your end-all be-all, this is the final destination, but use it as a way of getting comfortable. So start out just a couple notes in the scale and make sure that you can play a cool rhythm just on those couple notes. People can play a million notes an hour, but especially in something like this very riff blues bass kind of blues, you need to be able to play some nice, cool, laid-back rhythms, okay? So once you're comfortable with that, add a few notes. Don't go crazy, just slowly build until you're very comfortable and you and others around you feel like you're doing a good job just using the blues scale. So once you want to add a few more notes into that, you can add another blues scale on top of that. So on blueses, you can play the blues scale in the key that you're in. So in this case, a concert B-flat blues scale. But you can also play the blues scale a minor third lower. So what does that mean? You can also play the concert G blues scale. So that's going to be E blues for altos, that's going to be A blues for tenors. Okay, so you can also play that if you want a few, and it's the same thing. It's root, minor third, fourth, tritone, fifth, minor seventh. You get the picture. So you can also use that as an extra resource for finding more notes. So those two things are great, but how do we actually play the chords on the page? How do we actually start to make sense of those? Because once you get past blues, then you got to start dealing with chords if you want to keep improvising. So, first of all, you got to familiarize yourself with them and what they mean. So, for altos, you and baris, you guys have G7, C9, G7, G7. Those are the first four chords that you have when you start improvising. For tenors, you guys are going to have C, C7, you're going to have F9, C7, C7. So those four chords are really just two chords, of course. You've got G7 and C9 for the altos. You've got C7 and F9, sorry, I had to do the transposition in my head, for the tenors. So what do those actually mean? They take up a lot of the space in this improvisation. In fact, you've really only got one other chord there, D7. So if we can analyze these things, if we can take apart and figure out what they are, then we're well on our way to figuring out these chord changes. So first things first, if you see a uppercase note followed by a 7, that means they're asking for a dominant 7th chord. So that first chord that you see is a G dominant 7th. Now what does that mean? It's a major chord with a minor 7th on top. What does that mean? Well, for the altos and baris, that chord is going to be a G, B, D, F natural. Okay? G, B, D, F natural. For the baris, you guys are going to have C, E, G, B flat. Okay, those are the notes in that chord. For that C9, it's the same thing. It's a dominant 7th chord with an added 9, which is really just the second scale degree. So you guys are going to have C, E, G, B flat, D for altos and baris, C, E, G, B flat, D. And for the tenors, you guys are going to have F, A, C, E flat, G. Okay, that's going to be your chord, F, A, C, E flat, G. Then we have the G7, we have the G7, we go back to the C9, the only other chord you've got in this whole thing is the D dominant 7. The D7 is a D dominant 7, like I said, uppercase note with a 7, dominant 7th chord. So that's going to be D, F sharp, A, C natural for the altos and baries. For tenors, you guys have a G dominant 7th, so that's going to be G, B, D, F natural. Now, once you know that theoretically, you've got to start getting comfortable with how those sound. And one of the best ways to do that is just play them on your horn. So, for instance, the beginning of this is going to be... Sorry, I messed that up. To the third chorus. Now, you need to practice that with the metronome on 2 and 4 to get the right swing feel a million times until you can hear it in your sleep in your head without playing it. Then you're ready for the next step. The next step has to do with what are called guide tones. Now, guide tones are probably the most important parts of chords. People can get really obtuse and complex with them, but really all we're looking at is the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. The 3rd and the 7th. So, for the first chord, the G7 for altos and baries, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with a B and an F. For the second chord, you're dealing with an E and a B flat. And for that D7, you're dealing with an F sharp and a C natural. Those are the guide tones for altos and baries in each one of those chords. For tenors, you guys are dealing with an E and a B flat for that C dominant 7th. For the F dominant 7th, you're dealing with an A and an E flat. And for the G7, you're dealing with a B and an F natural. So if you guys remember those, you can use those as little clotheslines to hang melodies off of. So you're going to practice them. Tension there. There are a lot of little half steps, or at least a lot of notes that are very, very close to each other that you can use as kind of leading into new ideas. So I would encourage you guys, again, practice that ad nauseum with the metronome on 2 and 4, with the backing track if you want to, and get used to those guide tones. Get them in the back of your head. They're going to be really important when you start improvising. Okay? They're going to give you a structure that you can build other things around. Now, the other thing that you can do to start getting ready for wider and wider improvisation, you can start thinking about what scales can I play over each one of these chords. So, all of these chords, basically, if you boil it down, we can just call them dominant 7th chords. Don't worry too much about the 9th. We can play the same kinds of scales over all of these chords. And for a dominant 7th chord, one of the best scales that you can play is called the mixolydian scale or mixolydian mode. All it is, it's a major scale, and the 7th has been lowered by half a step. So for instance, for altos and baries on the G7, you guys are going to play a G mixolydian. So it's a G major scale, but instead of the F sharp, I play an F natural. Tenors, you guys, same thing. You're going to play a C mixolydian scale. So you're going to play a C scale, but instead of B natural, you're going to play B flat. Same thing. For the C9 chord, altos and baries, you guys can play a C mixolydian. Just talked about that. For you tenors out there, you guys can play an F mixolydian. So F, but with an E flat instead of an E natural. Same thing with the D7. For altos and baries, you guys can play a D mixolydian, D major chord, just with a C natural instead of a C sharp. Tenors, you guys can play G mixolydian, G major, just with a F natural instead of an F sharp. So you can use these to start forming melodies off of. Play through them with the metronome, etc., etc., until you can play it up to tempo. Then kick your metronome back on 2 and 4 and practice it in thirds. Practice these scales in thirds. Practice these scales in fourths. Practice these scales from the top down back. All kinds of opportunities to just get all of these sounds inside your head, so that eventually, once you get used to all of this stuff, you've got all these ideas floating around, and you can just forget all that stuff and just play. But you got to set a firm foundation so you can get past just playing blues and get into something that's going to help you with improvisation at large. I hope this has helped. I look forward to hearing from some of you guys. If you have any questions, if you'd like to talk to me about something, just shoot me an email, andrew.allen@mwsu.edu. I look forward to speaking with you, and good luck.